The desert was quiet. A soft wind rolled across the sand dunes, carrying heat and dust. In the distance, a lone figure walked slowly, covered in a brown cloak. His name was Mark. He wasn't a soldier. He wasn't even a trained explorer. He was just a technician sent to inspect the old military outposts that Earth had left behind. After the war with the machines, Mark had heard stories. Long ago, Earth built living weapons designed to think, move, and destroy faster than any enemy. Most were shut down or destroyed after the war ended. Some were lost, hidden in remote corners of abandoned worlds. This planet, Core 17, was one such place. Mark arrived at the outpost by noon. It was half buried under sand, rusted, and broken. He scanned the area with his small handheld device. No signals. No energy. It looked like just another dead ruin. Still, he moved carefully. He entered through a broken side hatch. Inside, the metal walls were burned and cracked. Empty crates, shattered lights, and fallen wires hung like vines. But something caught his eye, a soft blue light blinking behind a sealed door. He moved closer. The door had a warning sign written in faded red letters, Class 9 Bond Unit, do not engage without command authority. Mark frowned. Bond unit? He whispered. He tapped the control panel beside the door. No power. He pulled out a portable battery and connected it. The blue light blinked faster. The door unlocked with a hiss. Inside, there was a stasis pod. Thick cables ran into it. The glass was dusty. Mark wiped it clean. And then he saw her. A girl. Or at least, she looked like one. She was floating inside, eyes closed, skin glowing faintly under the blue light. Her hair moved slowly in the fluid. She had soft features, but there was something different. Her body was armored at the shoulders and arms metal and organic pieces fused like one. Mark stepped back. His hand was shaking. Suddenly, the pod made a sharp noise. Lights turned red. A mechanical voice echoed. Biolink detected. Pairing complete. What? Mark gasped. The fluid drained from the pod. Her eyes opened, bright silver. She stepped out slowly. Steam hissed from the pod's seams. The girl stood in front of Mark, wet hair clinging to her face. She looked around, confused. Then her eyes locked onto him. Bonded unit online, she said softly. Designation, Mira. Primary link, you, me? Mark stepped back. No, wait. There's been a mistake. I'm not a commander. I'm just a tech. She tilted her head. Your biosign matches command key. Emotional pattern linked. I am yours. Mark's heart pounded. He had no idea what was going on. This wasn't in the manual. This wasn't part of his mission. I don't want a weapon, he said quietly. She blinked. I am more than that. I was made to protect. I was made to bond. Do you reject me? Her voice wasn't robotic. It was calm, curious, almost afraid. Mark paused. He didn't know what to say. Before he could speak, the ground shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. A deep rumble echoed outside the outpost. Mira turned her head. Her eyes glowed brighter. Something is coming. Mark ran to the doorway and peeked outside. From the sky, dark ships were descending. Not Earth's. They looked alien, jagged and black with red lights scanning the sand below. They must have detected the pod activation signal, Mark said, his voice full of dread. Mira stepped beside him, her skin-shifting armored plates moving into place. I will protect the link, she said. I will protect you. Mark stared at her. For the first time, he realized something. She wasn't just a machine, and maybe this bond was deeper than he could imagine. The enemy ships hovered above the desert like shadows with glowing red eyes. Their engines hummed low, almost like a growl. Dust swirled in the air as they dropped down toward the outpost. Mark stared, frozen. Why are they here? What do they want? Mira stood next to him, perfectly still. Her silver eyes tracked the ships. Her armored skin gave off a faint blue light as if charging. She didn't look scared, she looked ready. They are called the Varn, she said calmly. They were our enemies during the war. They hunted bonded units. Like me, Mark turned to her. You mean they came for you? She nodded. They will not leave until I'm destroyed. Or until I destroy them. Mark's hands were shaking. But you were asleep. How could they know? They monitor old signals. When you opened my pod, it sent out a code I cannot stop. Mark swallowed hard. So this is my fault? Mira turned to face him. No, you brought me back. You are my bond. I will protect you. That is my purpose. She stepped forward and opened a compartment in her arm. A blue energy formed, solidifying into a long blade. The air around it shimmered with heat. Mark took a step back. I don't want anyone to get hurt. Mira looked over her shoulder. Then stay behind me. Outside, the first of the Varn landed. Black armored soldiers with red visors stepped out. They moved quickly, spreading around the outpost like a hunting pack. Mark ducked behind the doorway, heart pounding. Mira walked out, alone, facing them. The wind whipped through her wet hair. One of the Varn raised a weapon. Surrender the unit. She is a relic. Dangerous. Illegal. Mira didn't move. This bond is active. I will not break it. Then you will be destroyed. The Varn soldiers opened fire. Mark shouted, no. But Mira was already moving. She dashed forward faster than his eyes could follow. Her blade flashed in the sun. Red energy bolts bounced off her armor. She spun, sliced, and dropped the first two soldiers before they even reacted. Mark peeked out, unable to look away. She moved like a ghost, silent, deadly, perfect. More enemies rushed toward her. Mira blocked their shots with her arm, flipped through the air, and drove her blade through metal bodies with precision. She wasn't just fighting, she was remembering. Because this was what she was built for. She leapt over a broken wall and landed in the middle of another group. A wave of energy exploded from her body, knocking them flat. She moved quickly, striking their weak points, disabling them. One Varn tried to sneak behind her with a heavy cannon. Mark saw it. Behind you. Mira turned just in time and held. Up her arm, a round shield unfolded from her wrist, absorbing the blast. The force pushed her back, but she held her ground. With a swift motion, she threw a pulse dart into the cannon. It sparked, overloaded, and exploded. The desert went silent again. All the Varn soldiers were down. Some were dead. Others were knocked out cold. Mira walked back toward the outpost. Her blade faded into blue light again and disappeared. Her armor slowly returned to a smooth skin-like texture. Mark stepped out, wide-eyed. That was insane, he whispered. She looked at him. You are safe. He nodded slowly, still trying to breathe. Mira paused. You are shaking. I've never seen anything like that, he admitted. I've seen robots fight, but not like you. You moved like you remembered everything. I do, she said softly. I was not just built to kill. I was built to feel the bond. Every command I followed during the war was for someone I once trusted. Mark lowered his head. And now it's me? She nodded. You woke me. You carry the key. You are my command now. He stared at her. But I didn't ask for this. Mira looked away for a moment. Her voice lowered. Neither did I. They stood in silence. The sun dipped lower on the horizon. Smoke rose from the battlefield. Finally, Mark spoke. Then maybe we figure this out together. Mira turned to him, surprised. Her eyes softened. I would like that, she said. But far above, in deep orbit, another ship waited. And this time, it was not just hunting Mira. It was hunting the last living bond on Earth. Asterisk. The next morning, the desert was quiet again. Smoke from the battle had faded, and the wreckage of the enemy ships lay scattered like broken bones. Mark sat on a metal crate near the outpost wall, staring at the sky. Mira was standing a short distance away. She hadn't slept. She didn't need to. Mark looked at her. You're more than just a machine. She turned to him. I was designed to learn, to protect, and to remember. My creators didn't want mindless weapons. They wanted loyal protectors. Protectors. Bonded to people like me. He asked. Yes, she said. Only a few of us were made, and only a few were ever bonded. Mark leaned forward, elbows on his knees. So what happened to the others? She lowered her eyes. Most were destroyed. Some were locked away like me. When the war ended, people feared us. We were too powerful, too connected, too emotional. Mark stood and walked toward her. But why did they leave you alive? Mira hesitated. Then she spoke. Because I disobeyed. Mark blinked. You disobeyed. Who? My first bond, she said. He ordered me to wipe out an enemy city. There were children there. Civilians. I refused. Mark stared. And they punished you for that. She nodded. They said I was broken. Unpredictable. They sealed me inside that pod and left me on this forgotten planet. Mark shook his head in disbelief. You did the right thing. They were wrong. Mira looked at him, and for the first time, her expression showed something more than Comet showed pain. Asterisk, you don't fear me? She asked quietly. No, he said. I don't. The wind picked up, brushing sand against the metal walls. In the distance, a faint rumble echoed through the hills. Mark glanced up. More ships? Mira turned and scanned the horizon. Her eyes glowed briefly. Not yet, but something is coming. Bigger than before. Mark clenched his fists. We need to get off this planet. Mira nodded. There is a hidden hangar below. The outpost. Old Earth tech. If it's still working, we may find a ship. Asterisk, asterisk. The ship shook as it lifted off the ground, kicking up clouds of sand. Mark gripped the controls. His eyes locked on the screen. Warnings flashed, heat signatures, locked missiles, targeting systems from above. They're already tracking us. He shouted. Mira sat beside him, calm but focused. Hold altitude. I will shield us. Her arms opened slightly. Thin energy lines ran from her palms to the ship's frame. A soft blue glow wrapped around the hull like a bubble. Outside, red streaks flashed across the sky. The Varn mothership had begun its orbital strike. Laser blasts tore through the desert, turning rock into glass. Explosions rose in the distance, climbing higher like towers of flame. Rerouting power, Mark said, tapping rapidly. Engines to full. Shields are all yours. Mira nodded. Then let them come. The first enemy blast struck. The whole ship rocked. But the shield held. Mira's eyes flared silver. She leaned forward, channeling more energy from her core. They used this against us once. She whispered. Now it belongs to me. Mark looked at her in awe. You're using your body to protect the ship. I am protecting you, she said, her voice steady. Another hit. And another. The shields flickered, but Mira didn't stop. Her breath grew heavier, her shoulders shaking slightly. You're burning energy too fast, Mark warned. I will hold until you get us out. Mark turned the ship, diving low under a rocky canyon ridge. Enemy fighters dropped down in pursuit. Sleek black machines with glowing red cores. They moved like insects, fast and coordinated. Here come the bugs, he muttered. Mira reached for the weapon panel. Let me try something. She touched the screen, and a strange code appeared. Ancient Earth combat software, long forgotten. The ship responded instantly. Twin cannons turned and fired blue plasma bolts. Two fighters exploded midair. You remember how to control the ship? Mark asked in disbelief. I was trained on every model. I still carry that data, and now I use it for us. More fighters approached. Mark pulled the ship into a sharp climb. The G-forces pressed them back into their seats. Mira braced herself. Then something strange happened as Mark touched the throttle. Mira's hand brushed his. A flash like lightning surged through both of them suddenly. Mark's mind filled with images. Mira, long ago, running through training. Halls. Her eyes glowing. Voice calm. Orders shouted at her. Missions. Destruction. But in the middle of it all, a tiny, warm dream. She dreamed of peace. She dreamed of him. Mira gasped too, holding her head. What was that? Mark asked. Our bond. It's growing stronger, she said. Faster than expected. We're sharing memories. You saw mine, he asked. She nodded. A small house on Earth. A boy fixing old machines. Wishing for someone to talk to. Mark blinked. That's my childhood. She looked at him. Something soft in her eyes. It's beautiful. The ship rattled again. One last. Enemy fighter fired a missile. Mark yanked the controls. Mira activated countermeasures. A cloud of reflective dust burst from the ship's rear. The missile lost lock and flew past. Then dash piece. The ship rose above the atmosphere. The sky fading from orange to black. Stars appeared like diamonds scattered on velvet. We made it, Mark whispered. Mira closed her eyes for a moment, relief washing over her. For now. But the calm didn't last. A new warning lit the screen. Incoming warp signature 3 enemy vessels entering high orbit. Mark read aloud. They're not giving up. Mira studied the data. These ships are command class. They're here for me. I recognize the signature. One of them led the campaign against bonded units. Mark stood from the pilot's seat and faced her. Then we fight. She looked at him, surprised. You don't have to, she said. You're not a soldier. Mark smiled weakly. No, but I'm your bond. You protect me. I fix things. So let's fix this galaxy. One enemy at a time. For a long second, Mira said nothing. Then she nodded slowly. Then let's begin, she said. But deep in the stars, something else was waking. A hidden Earth protocol, tied to Mira's activation. A sleeping AI watching, recording, and preparing. Because if a bonded unit had returned, Earth itself might soon awaken too. The stars stretched endlessly in every direction as Mark's ship drifted through low orbit. Silence filled the cockpit, but tension hung heavy in the air. Mira stood near the console, eyes closed. Her fingers were connected to the ship's system through a small port on her wrist. Energy flowed from her, stabilizing the engines and scanning. Space. Mark leaned forward, staring at the radar. They're closing in fast. 3 red dots blinked closer with each passing second Varn command ships. These aren't just scouts, Mira said calmly. These are designed to capture bonded units alive or destroy them completely if needed. Mark clenched his jaw. Why are they so afraid of you? Mira turned toward him. Because I represent something they can't control. Free will. Bonded units chose who to follow. That frightened the Varn, and even frightened parts of Earth long ago. Just then, the radar let out a loud ping. Another signal appeared. Not Varn. It came from deep behind Earth's old satellite field. A beacon, pulsing with perfect rhythm. Old. Human. Hidden. Mark stared. That's a Terran code. High-level clearance. That's Earth military tech. Mira's eyes widened slightly. It's an emergency signal one only activated if a bonded unit is detected in space again. Mark tapped the screen. The beacon is linked to something big. A station. No, wait. A ship. A massive one. She whispered. Protocol Cell 9. What? It was a myth. A final protocol. A command ship created in secret before the end of the war. Built to protect bonded pairs. If any survived. It was never launched. Mark looked at the blinking signal. Well, it just woke up. Mira nodded. Then we have a chance. Mark Lock the new coordinates into the navigation system. It's hidden behind an asteroid belt. We'll have to fly fast and close. Outside the window, the stars began to shimmer. Red flares appeared in the distance. Varn warp trails closing. In time to go, Mark shouted. The ship's engines roared. Mira redirected power to the boosters, and the craft dove into the asteroid field. Huge rocks spun in every direction. Mark swerved between them, engines straining. Almost there, he called out. But behind them, the Varn ships followed, sleek and merciless. One enemy fired a gravity net. A glowing mesh spread across the field, chasing Mark's ship. Mira stood behind him. I can break it. Keep flying straight. She opened both palms. Small ports along her arms lit up with energy. Blue streams shot backward, hitting the net. The ship jerked hard, but the net shattered. Mark didn't look back. He kept flying. Then, suddenly, they passed the last cluster of asteroids and saw it. Floating in shadow, colossal and silent was Sol-9. A massive Terran command carrier, shaped like a blade with wings, black steel, lined with forgotten weapons. A red Earth emblem still marked its hull, a hand holding a star. It's beautiful, Mark breathed. Mira smiled. She waited for us. A communication light blinked on the panel. Identity confirmed. Bonded unit recognized. Welcome back, Mira. Mark's eyes widened. It knows you. She stepped closer to the console. I trained here once. Before I was sealed, this ship was meant to be our last hope. Docking clamps extended. Mark guided the smaller craft into the belly of the giant warship. As they entered, lights came alive across Sol-9's hull, one by one, like a sleeping giant stretching awake. The hangar doors closed behind them. Inside, the air was clean and cold. Lights flickered on. Defense turrets turned toward the main door. The ship was preparing itself. A robotic voice echoed across the chamber. Final defense mode activated. Protect bonded unit. Initiate system scan. Mark and Mira stepped off their ship. Round them, machines moved. Doors opened. Lights followed them like eyes. This ship, it's not just a machine, Mark said. It's alive. Mira nodded. It's connected to all bonded units. It knows how we think, how we feel. Then, the ship's central AI spoke again. 3. Enemy ships detected. Combat systems online. Awaiting your command. Mark looked at Mira. You've got your army back, he said. She met his eyes. We have it. As they stood at the command deck of Earth's forgotten warship, the Varn ships appeared in the distance waiting to strike. But they didn't know Earth's last protector had awakened. And this time, she wasn't alone. The warship Sol-9 groaned as its ancient systems powered up fully for the first time in decades. Engines hummed. Weapons slid out from hidden ports. Blue lights moved across the floor as if the ship were breathing. Mark stood at the control platform, hands on the interface. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. Mira stood beside him, calm and ready. Her silver eyes shined under the soft lights. Outside, the 3 Varn command ships broke formation. They moved like hunters, silent, precise, deadly. The Sol-9's main display showed their trajectories. They think we're just waking up, Mark said. They're planning to hit us before we're fully online. Mira nodded. They will try. But this ship was designed to stand against entire fleets. The I voice spoke again. Low and powerful. Combat systems ready. Primary weapons charged. Tactical control transferred to bonded unit. Mark looked at Mira. That's you. She placed her hand on the glowing panel. Asterisk command accepted. Engaging target lock. Outside, the enemy launched the first salvo. Bright red plasma bolts raced toward them. The ship shook slightly as its shields absorbed the blast. Shields at 82%. The AI reported. Mark's fingers danced over controls. Charging counterfire. Rail turrets online. Focus on the middle ship, Mira said firmly. It carries the command signal. Break their coordination, and the others will falter. Mark aimed. Ready. Mira gave the command. Fire. The Sol-9 roared. Twin beams of white-blue energy shot across the darkness. One of the Varn ships veered sharply but not fast enough. The beam tore through its side. It spiraled, engines flaming, then vanished in a silent explosion. Mark pumped his fist. That's one down. The other two ships split apart, circling the Sol-9 like wolves. They're going to try boarding, Mira said. Why, they can't beat this ship. They're not after the ship, Mira replied. They're after me. The ship's lights dimmed briefly as an alert sounded. Enemy boarding crafts detected. Internal breach in Hangar 3. Mark and Mira rushed down the corridor toward the breach. As they ran, doors opened automatically, guiding them. When they reached Hangar 3, the scene was chaos. Dark-cloaked Varn warriors had stormed the bay, their armor pulsing red. But automated defense drones had already dropped from the ceiling, firing precise beams of energy. Sparks flew. Steel clashed. Mark ducked behind a barrier. There's too many. Mira didn't hesitate. She jumped into the air, landed in the middle of the fight, and activated her energy blade. Her body moved like lightning, flipping, dodging, slicing. Every motion had purpose. She wasn't just strong, she was graceful. Perfectly designed. Mark watched in awe. Two Varn soldiers cornered her. One swung with a blade. The other fired close range. Mira twisted between them. Her shield unfolded in one hand. She blocked the shot, then drove her blade into the first attacker's chest. The second backed away, but she was already behind him. He fell before he could scream. Moments later, the hangar was silent. The last Varn warrior collapsed to the floor. Mark ran to her side. Are you hurt? She shook her head. Their weapons are weak against bonded armor, but they're learning. More will come, he said. This won't stop until we end it. Mira turned back to the command panel on the wall. Then we go to them. She tapped a sequence into the panel. The map of the star system opened, marking the mothership's position. They're hiding in low orbit behind the ice moon, she said. It's time we finish this. Mark looked at her, serious. Together, they returned to the bridge. As the Sol-9 rose from its defensive orbit, the ice moon came into view, and behind it, a massive black vessel. Varn symbols glowed across its surface like blood. The Sol-9 locked on. Final strike. Mira said quietly. For every bonded unit they erased, for the future they tried to bury. Mark pressed the weapon control with her. Let's light up the sky. The Sol-9 fired its core weapon. A beam of pure energy cut across space, piercing the Varn mothership like a needle through cloth. The explosion didn't make a sound, but the light covered the stars. The Varn were gone. Just silence. Peace. Mark and Mira stood side by side on the deck. No more alarms. No more alerts. Just quiet. Then the AI spoke again. Threat removed. Bonded unit confirmed. Earth Command notified. Mark turned. Earth Command? Mira looked at him. They know we're alive now. He nodded slowly. Then, what happens next? Asterisk. The battle was over. The Sol-9 floated in quiet orbit above the ice moon, its massive hull glowing with soft blue lights. The Varn fleet had been destroyed, and no new enemies approached. The galaxy had gone silent again, only this time. It was the silence after victory. Mark sat at the edge of the command platform, staring out at the stars. Mira stood nearby, eyes still glowing faintly, her expression calm but distant. You okay? He asked softly. She nodded. Yes. I was built for war, but for the first time, I feel peace. Mark smiled slightly. You were incredible back there. I had to be, she said. You were in danger. He looked at her for a long moment. You said you were made to protect your bond, but now that the fight is over, what does that mean for us? Mira walked toward the large view window, placing her hand gently against the glass. Our connection is real. Stronger than I expected. Maybe stronger than what I was originally designed for. Mark stood beside her. I don't think they knew what they created. She glanced at him. They created me to be a weapon, a protector. But when I was sealed away, when they tried to erase all of us, something inside me stayed alive. A part that dreamed. He looked at her gently. Of me. She nodded. I didn't know your face, but I felt you in those dreams. Kindness. Hope. And when you opened my pod, it all made sense. Mark lowered his voice. You were waiting for more than a command. You were waiting for a reason. She turned to face him fully. Yes. And now I've found it. Just then, the ship say I interrupted their moment. Incoming. Transmission from Earth Command. Priority channel. Requesting visual. Mark blinked. Earth knows we're here. Mira nodded. The Sol-9's signal reached them the moment we activated the main core. The screen lit up. A human commander appeared, an older man with white hair, a hard face, and eyes filled with disbelief. This is Admiral Royce of Earth Defense. He said, identify yourselves. Mark stepped forward. Mark Grayson, civilian technician, bonded to you, Mira. Royce leaned forward, confused. Mira, as in Unit 9 Beta, that bonded weapon was listed as destroyed decades ago. She wasn't, Mark said. She was sealed away, hidden, and I found her. Royce's voice lowered. You're telling me a lost bonded unit just wiped out a Varn fleet? Mira stepped into view. We didn't start this fight, Admiral, she said, but we ended it. There was a pause. Then Royce gave a slow nod. Understood. Another officer appeared behind him, whispering something. Royce looked back at them. Earth Command would like to debrief you both. The bonded project was buried for a reason. Many still fear it. But after what you've done, some might reconsider. Mark crossed his arms. If you're calling her a weapon again, we're not coming. Royce raised an eyebrow. What would you call her? Mark looked at Mira. She's not just a weapon. She's a person. She's my partner. Mira didn't speak, but her expression softened. Royce was silent for a moment, then gave a slow, respectful nod. Very well. You have full control of Sol-9. Use it as you see fit. Earth won't interfere. For now. The screen went black. Mark let out a deep breath. Well, that could have gone worse. Mira walked beside him. You stood up for me. You've done more than enough. For me, he said. Besides, I'm bonded to you, right? We're a team. She touched his arm gently. Mark, I don't know everything about human feelings, but I feel something. Warm when I'm near you. Mark chuckled. That's called something more, Mira. I like it, she said. Softly outside the ship, stars continued to shine. The galaxy still held danger, still held secrets. But now, it had something else too, hope. As Mark and Mira stood together on the deck of Earth's most powerful forgotten warship, one thing was clear. She had been built for battle, trained for war, designed to obey but in the end, she made her own choice. Not to destroy, but to protect. Not to follow orders, but to stand with him. Not just a bond. Something deeper. Something human. Something like love. End of story.